Hey guys, this is Curtis Alexander. I'm a pharmacist. In this video, I want to go over some groups of foods that are very inflammatory to your body. And if you cut those out, it's going to help you tremendously. However, before I get into those foods specifically, I want to touch on what's going on in your body, what causes inflammation. This will help you better understand why these foods can be so harmful to you. So first of all, when we're talking inflammation, we're essentially saying redness, swelling, headaches can also be inflammation. Mucus production can also be inflammation. So there's a number of things that are inflammatory that happen when you have inflammation. Now, you can see here, ideally, when we take in food, all that is potential energy. It's up to your body and the health of your metabolism to be able to convert those foods into energy. And in this case, you can see we want to convert our food ideally into ATP and into carbon dioxide. Now, when we eat foods that don't permit this, we can get that inflammation, we can get that stress. Now, part of the reason this process doesn't happen is because these foods cause your metabolic rate to be lowered. When that happens, we can see less glucose that's taken up. We can also see when that happens that your backup, your stress hormones are going to kick in and try to make up for that lack of energy. Okay, now as a byproduct of this, when you have these backup systems kicking in, you're not going to produce energy and carbon dioxide. You're going to produce, instead of carbon dioxide, you're going to produce more lactic acid. That lactic acid is also going to contribute to the stress response. And the end result is, instead of looking at drugs as our first choice for inflammation, it would be much more helpful, much more effective long-term if we eliminated some of these foods that are causing this process to start with. So let's look at the first group, and that's seed oils. I've talked about this a lot. There are a ton of seed oils out there. Some of them you can see: vegetable, grapeseed, canola oil, corn, cottonseed, sunflower. You can read them all there. The reason these are so harmful is, again, they are going to slow your metabolic rate, and it's going to force you into kind of that backup energy system production. If there's anything you can get from this video, I say this a ton: cut out your seed oils. These are polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs. They're terrible for you. Instead, what I encourage people to do, substitute those with things like coconut oil, grass-fed butter, and ghee is another option, okay? Second group you want to pay attention to is your phytoestrogens. Now, when I say the word estrogen, people will think, well, that means he's saying it's bad. That's not what I'm saying. Estrogen isn't bad per se, but it can, when it gets too high, we can have a few things happen. One of which, you can get more water taken up into your cells. It can put you in a low oxygen state, and hence that's going to be more of a stressed state. Now, the one thing I want to point out, we're talking about soy and legumes here. Now, while estrogen, there are studies showing that estrogen can lower inflammation in certain cases. I want to point that out. However, we do know in people with pre-existing chronic autoimmune conditions, estrogen is not very helpful. Those chronic autoimmune conditions are very common nowadays. So I think phytoestrogens, you need to eliminate them. Two big culprits are soy, any sort of soy products, and again, legumes. Now, let's talk about seeds. There, like I'm saying here, there's lots of confusion, but the bottom line is seeds, and this includes grains as well as legumes, they have built-in defense mechanisms. If you're an animal in the wild, you can run away. You can protect yourself that way. Plants can't run away, so they have built-in defense mechanisms. Some of these that I want to touch on are anti-nutrients, and they can be things that you may have heard about. We've got lectins, phytates, saponins, oxalic acid, enzyme inhibitors, a whole bunch of them. One of the biggest ones is those lectins, and what we're going to see is that they can cause a lot of gut problems, okay? And what I'm saying is gut permeability, so you can get leaky gut. You can also get bacterial overgrowth. And this is part of the reason why when people cut out grains, whatever diet they're on, it could be keto, carnivore, whatever, but when you cut out grains, people almost immediately feel better because they most likely have a very high endotoxin load in their gut. And so they're no longer have this leaky gut, or they're improving the leaky gut. So these anti-nutrients that are in grains are very problematic for people. Now, I am able at this point to consume some grains. I stick with long fermented sourdough, and I only use flour that's from Europe. The reason for that, they don't have glyphosates in them, so it's good flour. I don't eat a ton of it, but I'm not saying with grains, you may or may not be able, if you have inflammation right now, I would cut them out. You may be able to reintroduce them down the road. Now, this last group is interesting because I get a lot of blowback on this, but excess muscle meats, egg whites, and whey protein, particularly with the carnivore group, there's simply no denying that muscle meats, particularly like grass-fed beef, very, very healthy meats. However, you're going to get a lot of inflammatory amino acids. And the problem with that, one of those, for example, inflammatory amino acids is tryptophan. And in adults, tryptophan is converted to serotonin. We do know serotonin can be no bueno. It's bad for your thyroid to get too much of that. The other thing about muscle meats, they're high in phosphorus. Okay, your body needs to regulate phosphorus along with calcium. When phosphorus gets too high, that's a signal to your body and the parathyroid hormone that it is going to go out to your bones primarily and pull calcium from the bones to balance out that high phosphorus content. So we not only have this inflammatory component, we have increase in serotonin, lowering of your thyroid function, and then we have this bone mineral density issue because you could potentially pull calcium. Again, doesn't make muscle meats bad, doesn't make egg whites bad, but you want to balance them out. And in my case, what I recommend with clients is they balance them out with like bone broth, gelatin, whether that's a powdered gelatin or whether you can eat some more of the gelatinous cuts in the animal. Back in the day when you dispatched an animal, the entire animal was eaten, not just the muscle meat. And there's a reason for that. And so raw dairy is another good option to add in because that calcium is going to help you balance out your phosphorus. So these are 4 big groups that are going to increase inflammation in your body. The first 2, for sure, you want to get out of your diet completely. The second 2 are going to be more of an adjustment on your part, depending on how you're doing right now. Like I said, the grains, you may be able to tolerate a few. The muscle meat, egg whites, is just going to be a matter of eat the whole egg, include some things in your diet to balance out those inflammatory amino acids. So hope the video was helpful. You guys, let me know in the comments other topics that you'd like me to cover, any other questions that you have. I hope this was helpful. See you in the next one.